Hello, welcome to the OK Football Show, opposition preview with me, Philip Macbethseith. Today, I'm going to be speaking to Ben from the Argyle Life 1886 podcast as we look ahead to our Friday night fixture against Plymouth Argyle away at Home Park. Plymouth Argyle have just come off the back of a 1-0 loss against much-fancied West Brom, but their last home game, they took a 3-2 win against Sunderland. Sunderland, who at that point were unbeaten. Plymouth got a last-minute goal through Joe Edwards in the dying seconds, and they will be absolutely jubilant on a Friday night under the lights on the Sky TV cameras, welcoming Luton Town. As for Luton Town, we're off the back of a 2-1 win against Sheffield Wednesday. We managed to scrape over the line in the end, aided by the fact that Sheffield Wednesday went down to 10 men following a handball. Carlton Morris came on and scored 2 goals, and ultimately it was 3 points, and I think that's about as much as we can say about that. So we're going to be looking ahead to Friday night. Rob Edwards himself said that he's not happy with the way that we're playing at the moment, but the reality of it is that in this little period of games, we need to keep on picking up 3 points. Friday night is no different, but it's going to be one hell of a difficult one. So I'm going to look forward to talking to Ben as we look at who their star players are, look at how they're going to line up, and get his predictions for the Sluga 6. So guys, as promised, here's Ben from the Argyle Life 1886 podcast. How are you doing today, Ben? Are you all right?
Yeah, good, thanks. I'm in the middle of moving house, so it's a bit hectic. So you might find me not as prepared as normal. But yeah, normally it's a very polished machine, but today I might be a little bit vague. So
No worries, mate. That lovely plain background as well. We can work wonders with that. So Ben, first and foremost, let's get into it. I mean, Plymouth season so far, you've had a couple of draws against Hull and QPR. You had a bit of a disappointing loss, obviously, against Sheffield Wednesday on the opening day. But I think that, as I see it from a football fan's perspective outwardly, is that I saw real progression against QPR, despite the fact that you're down to 10 men at times, even down to 9. And to go away to West Brom like you did at the weekend, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful towards you, but to lose only by the 1 goal and to sort of still be in the game against a much fancied West Brom, I think it's shown real progression. How are you feeling about how the season's gone so far?
it's a strange one. I was very against Rooney's appointment. I don't have a problem with Rooney. You know, the guy wants to apply for the job. That's his prerogative. I do think the board, or sorry, the committee that appointed him, they put out a public statement. The chairman released an interview. I say an interview. You know, it's the in-house reporter, presenter asking him the questions they've sort of set up to answer, but to sort of like counter the public backlash about and some of the things he said in there were like either misleading or just downright wrong. And I sort of say this on every sort of preview pod I come on. But for example, the talk about Rooney was obliged to play a certain way by the ownership at Birmingham. Well, you know, even after he got fired, he went on Stick to Football with Neville, and was talking about how he was completely his way of playing, his philosophy, etc., etc. So, and his only regret was that he didn't get a transfer window to really work the squad over. So there's a few things I thought, I don't think the reasoning behind this appointment is good. That's being said, even bad decisions can come good. You know, you can run out in traffic to go and get your football and not get hit by a car. It works out well. It doesn't mean it was a good decision, you know. So the hope is, you know, even those of us, I think, who weren't too keen on the appointment, and I think had a good basis for that, are hoping that it comes good nevertheless. The squad itself over the summer looks roughly improved, except for the gaping hole that was left by Finn Azaz last January when he went to Borough, and we haven't really filled since. Now we've got Rami Al-Haj in the door on deadline day, hopefully getting to fitness. He will be the heir to that playmaking role in the middle, which I think will link the squad together. Obviously, even though the squad has improved, we only survived on the last day last season, so we kind of expecting to be at that end of the table again, despite, you know, a little bit of investment in the summer. So we come into the start of the season just hoping really to survive, and then we got battered, absolutely undone by Wednesday in the first game. And all the record stats that were there, the XG conceded, the shots, etc., etc. And we thought, okay, well, this is exactly what we thought it might be. Obviously, no one's panicking too early. You've got to give someone time. And as you say, I think Rooney has demonstrated a lot of nous and deserves a lot of credit. One of the things I pointed out in one of the long reads I wrote was that across all his jobs, one of the consistent criticisms has been his tactical inflexibility, his unwillingness to change personnel even. And very early doors, he's changed what he was trying to do. I think in pre-season, he's changed his starting 11 to now the last couple of games, both against Sunderland and West Brom. The team looks more. It's gone from like a 4-2-3-1 to more of a 4-3-3, sometimes 3-4-3 when Bali Mumba gets forward into midfield. And that's something that, I questioned, would he start to do that? Would he have learned from Birmingham? This is kind of last chance to Luna, certainly at this level for him. Will he have learned? Will he be willing to flex? And he's shown that he is. And that, I think, it bodes the best. That could be that's the best that we can hope for, because if he's obviously got a great football knowledge, and if he can be flexible and he can learn, then he's got great potential to be a great manager. So I think he's now playing a system that suits the players a little bit better that we've got. As much as he was trying to get them to do things they couldn't do, I think he's learned maybe that players have limitations. Maybe he doesn't empathise with that. I think though he's got that point now, and that's really good. So there has been a gradual development. It's not necessarily been linear. There's been some, like you say, QPR was a pretty good result, and then Stoke maybe was a bit of a backward step in some ways, but there's definitely a trending progression, and I think a lot of the fans are actually quite excited now at this point. A lot of people, myself included, who didn't think there was much hope of us staying up, given the lack of basket cases for us to sort of aim to finish above. There's a few of those appeared, thankfully, but also, the performances, especially against Sunderland and West Brom, have given us real hope that this team can survive, and maybe even quite comfortably. It's going to come down to those games against those around us down the bottom, probably. But if we can nick a few points here and there from the big guns like Luton, then all the more happy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few factors at play, aren't there, for Friday night? I mean, the fact is it's the end of a working week. It's under the lights. It's going to be on TV, and without trying to blow our own trumpet, you're welcoming a team that was in the Premier League last year. It's got a lot of sort of social media traction and things like that, and you're hosting us after you've just beaten Sunderland, who were unbeaten at that point, 3-2 at home. So there's a lot of momentum that you'll have, and I think I'm expecting a thoroughly difficult evening. I think it'll be a real tough one, especially given how Luton are playing at the moment as well, because we're scraping over the line. I think that's probably doing us playing as a compliment, to be honest with you, because we're not in the best of form. But you mentioned a couple of players there earlier on when you were speaking, Ben, and there's a few that sort of stick out to me as players that always seem to catch my eye whenever I watch Plymouth. And I think that one of them was a signing that you made last season in your first season in the Championships, and that's Bali Mumba. And every time I watch him play, I just think about how good he is at getting you up the pitch and the progression that he makes, and he seems so dynamic. And the other one is Sissoko as well. When I've watched him, I feel like he's a bit of a 50-50 player. Like one day he could be absolutely exceptional, and then the next day you might get nothing out of him. But are those two of the sort of main worries that Luton have got to look forward to on Friday night? I said earlier on to you off camera that I didn't really want to speak about Morgan Whittaker, because I'm sure that he's always there. So I thought I'd pick those two players as different dangers in your arsenal.
Well, the thing about Whittaker is that he's now been identified as our key threat. So if he's not man marked, he's doubled up on, and that does allow for the other players like the ones you've just mentioned to get more action. Obviously, we'd like to see Morgan Whittaker doing a little bit more this season. He's got a goal and technically the assist for the own goal against Sunderland. And he's doing okay, but he's just towards the end of last season. When Azaz isn't there and there's not really that other outlet, he does get covered a lot. And that's great because it allows more space for Sissoko and Mumba. And, with both of them together on that wing, with our Haj coming in, who in his little cameos, half-hour cameos, has shown really good feet. That's a really nice little link up down the left-hand side with the middle, little triangles, little give and goes. Ibrahim Sissoko he's got an aura about him. When you sort of see him get off the team bus, when you see him talking to the media and the fans, even when you see him play the game, he just gets himself up, not with a swagger, but sort of gets on with the game. He's got great self-confidence, and there's a reason he's at Toulouse. His dribbling statistics, etc., are just ridiculous. He's got such fast and skillful feet. He's come to Argyle to work on his end product, really. I think his decision making and whatever, and he's demonstrated already an improvement in that area, and could really be a top talent. Hopefully, he doesn't improve too quickly, and he gets recalled in January or sold on or something, a la Finazaz. Not that that's left scars. I've already mentioned it.
Yeah, not much.
But, yeah, he's really electric, and it's just his decision making, but when he does make the right decision, he does pick a man out. He hit the bar, he forces the keeper into saves, cutting in. He can go on both feet. So yeah, really, really excellent, exciting player. Is one, as you suggested, that can frustrate. But that's what you buy the ticket for, isn't it? You play the lottery to get the payoff. Bali Mumba, brilliant player, started last season up front in a sort of a wide forward position under Stephen Schumacher, which was a bit weird since he'd been playing as wing back. But we'd gone to a back four, and so it was a bit. Yeah, I think that's part of the way he'd got Mumba to agree to come back, possibly sort of promising more of an attacking role. Didn't really suit him because, as you observed, he's best driving from deep when he's got a head of steam and he's got space to run into. When he's already up there and the defender's got his back to the dead ball line, he's not really got the same options to play with and work with. We're currently playing a back four rather than a back five or back three. He's playing fullback rather than wing back. Yeah. Which doesn't necessarily suit his skill set in the same way, but he's a competent defender. And now the sort of system changed the last couple of games. He's getting into midfield, both inverting and overlapping a lot more freely, which is brilliant for the team and gets the best out of him. It gets him closer to Sissoko. So when the out ball goes to Sissoko, he's not so isolated. He can move the ball quicker. Brings Bali Mumba also into the game more. So yeah, those two, I think, if the formation and the tactics follow the last two games, which I imagine there'll be something similar, given we're at home and we like to be on the front foot at home, then yeah, you should see the best out of them.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned athleticism as well, and one of the things that sort of worried me, and I wanted to ask you about this because I was quite intrigued. I looked at sort of like the player ratings and stuff like that on like Plymouth Live and Plymouth Herald and things like that. This in sort of my reading before this, and the only player that didn't get like a 7 or above for the West Brom game was actually Ryan Hardy, and obviously from afar again, out and out goal scorer. Like I say, it seems to lead the line quite well. But you bought in Obafemi in the summer, and in my experience of Luton's defence at the moment, they do seem to struggle with the sort of shorter, stockier, pacier sort of striker rather than the big target man. I know that QPR fans are probably going to look at Frey and what he did to us, but generally speaking, we've had problems with people like Cameron Archer and some of the sort of the wrigglier sort of ones. And I was wondering about. You mentioned about how you're going to have more of an attacking impetus at home because it's a home game. You want to try and get something out of it. Do you think that it will be Obafemi up front, or do you think that he'll stick with Hardy, or do you think that there's something other that could be a surprise for us? What are your thoughts?
Ironically, they're quite similar. Although Hardy isn't stocky, he's certainly not a target man. He's much more like Obafemi, most effective running off the shoulder of the back line, or the last defender. Interestingly, the club brought in a striker on loan from Slavia Praha, Mohamed Tijani. He's like 6'12", 150. He's not just enormous in height. He's got a really long frame, sort of big wingspan, long legs, and greatly defined, very strong. And I think the idea was to get him. I think it's a loan with an option to buy, which would be a club record, which isn't a great deal for us, but it shows how what the hopes were for him, shall we say. I think the idea was to use him. It seems we didn't have a 10 in the squad at the time to hit and bring in the wingers, get the team up the pitch, bring in Sissoko, Whittaker, etc., the midfielders via that method. He hasn't been in the squad, let alone got on the pitch in the last 3 or 4 games. There's talk about injuries and things. I'm not quite sure there's also been talk that he might not be training well, or he's not settling well, or different things. He was quite conspicuous in the FIFA card reveals where everyone gets their scores. He featured quite heavily in that, which I think was probably a PR move to say actually he's doing okay, and etc. etc. The problem is that leaves us with Hardy and Obafemi, who are quite similar. Hardy's been starting with Obafemi coming on until, I want to say, was it Sunderland? I think Obafemi started and Hardy came on. I think we saw in that Obafemi is more dynamic with the ball at his feet, but he doesn't do quite the same pressing that Hardy does. Hardy's incredibly good at either starting the press, or when it comes from midfield, chasing the ball around the back when it gets played backwards. So they've both got different skill sets. Obafemi is stockier, like you say, stronger, can drive with the ball a bit better than Hardy can. Will take the challenge or the kick, the sort of the leg across the line better. So really, it's going to depend, I think, on what the plan of attack is, and I wouldn't like to second guess. Like I say, we've adapted to this formation the last couple of games. I thought it might have been just a tactic to combat Rigg and Bellingham for Sunderland, but we saw it more again away at West Brom. So thinking it's likely to be a similar setup, 4-3-3 to 3-4-3, that we sort of go between in and out of possession. And so it's going to depend whether we're going to, are we going to try and pass it up the flanks, get it into feet, in which case Hardy will likely start because he drifts better, I think, than Obafemi. If it's going to be, we're going to try and sit deep and sort of build up through the middle, then I think Obafemi will start because you can give him the ball, he can ride the challenge, turn, give and go, or face a man up. So they're actually deceptively similar, despite the complete contrast in physique. But in terms of style of play, I think there's that slight difference, and it will depend how high we want to press. We look like we've been trying to do quite a high press all season, but whether maybe there's something in your style of play that they think, well, we'll let them get to this point and sort of do a West Brom, more of a low block on the halfway line and give space for someone to run into. It will be seen, I suppose, on Friday, but I don't think there'll be too much difference between either of them starting and the other coming on and doing the last half hour, which seems to have been the rotation up to this point.
Yeah, that's interesting though, because like I say, I've said that I'll come onto your show after this, and it's one of those ones where I'm in a little bit of limbo as to what I say about Luton Town, because we've got players returning, and we've got new players. We saw the debut of Victor Moses and Tom Krause at the weekend, but by all accounts, we were terrible at the weekend. So I'm fully expecting there to be a change. It just depends on how stubborn Rob Edwards is for us. So seeing how we match up, and like hearing you say about how fluid your sort of 3-4-3 / whatever it sort of is, and however Rooney decides to deploy you, it's going to be really interesting. But okay, so the last part of it of this particular show will be asking you for your predictions. So first things first, let's start with the main game, and that's Plymouth versus Luton. How do you feel that's going to go, Ben? What's your scoreline that you've got in your head?
So we do our own prediction league with a forfeit in the on the pod. So we do it per calendar month, and I've got ours quite wrong. I predicted us to lose by 1 goal to West Brom, so I got that one right. But I'm actually the first one I've arrived to up the date, and actually think I've probably got that one right. So I'm going to stick with my original prediction at the start of the month and say 2-2.
Okay.
I think that you're improving. I know that you've still got problems, but you've got quality. And although we've tightened up defensively, I don't think. I think you've got potential to hurt us, especially if you can nick something early. You've got big units around the pitch, and although we've improved in size, that's our centre backs are maybe slightly undersized. I think Adebayo is an absolute handful, and I think set pieces, for example, are a real sort of vulnerability for us. With Grimshaw now coming in as keeper, not very, his claims from crosses are very, very low, and he's not a big keeper either. So I think that there's potential there for you to score, as much as we try and make it a hard place to come. I think 2-2. I think we'll get something. We're on a roll. We're putting things together going forward. I think there'll be goals in it. Yeah, 2-2 for us.
Sounds like a nice, entertaining Friday evening. So we'll see how
Sky
that
will love
pans
it.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next fixture in part of our predictor league, which we call the Sluga Six, is Hull versus Cardiff. How do you see that one going, Ben?
How are Cardiff gonna? Are they gonna be happy to have got rid of Bullet and like have a bounce, or
Difficult
are
one,
they
isn't
going
it?
to be in a
Timing of
quandary?
it.
I'm going to say 2-1. 2-1. Bit of a bounce, but not enough.
Okay, that sounds fair. Leeds versus Coventry.
Ooh, Cov have shocked me.
Yeah, same.
Although to be fair, so have you. I must apologise.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I predicted you to win the league, so it's all my fault. So yeah, I predicted you to be romping away. It's lots of time left to prove me right. Come on, 2-0. Yeah, 2-0.
2-0 Leeds. Okay.
Although Leeds are a bit leaky, aren't they? No, 2-0. No, I'm not
2-0.
going to.
All right. Then we've got Borough versus Stoke.
Or will Stoke score? No. New manager. Players annoyed. Schumacher's gone. I'm going to go 2-0 again. 2-0 Borough.
Yeah.
Finnazaz goals and assists against
You love this guy. I've learned something today. You love this guy.
not just that, but
and you miss him.
They just sacked one of his favourite managers in Schumacher, so he'll be up for the retribution. But yeah, no, I do absolutely love Finnazaz. I'll never ever forgive Middlesbrough.
We're gonna have to hashtag him when we put this video out. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The second last one is Millwall versus Preston.
Ooh, 1-0 home. I'm going for all the obvious.
No, that's fair enough. It's for a good cause, so I appreciate it. And then Watford versus Sunderland is the last game.
Or 0-2, because I know how the game works. I like,
Yeah, thank you, mate.
I'm aware of footballing rivalries.
Thank you. I would never ever dream of talking about Exeter winning a game, so don't worry. so Ben, as we wrap it up, if you would just like to give you a quick shout out to your socials, just so that the Hatters fans can give you a quick follow.
Thank you. Yeah, so on Twitter we are at Argyle Life 1886. Search for Argyle Life or Green and White podcast on YouTube. Aaron will probably he'll shoot me for not telling you what our TikTok and everything else is. But if you search for us on any format, we're likely there. Yeah, but all of our pods are recorded, so we'll do a review of the game, and like Phill has said, we're going to do the reverse of this, so you'll be able to see my questions about you guys, etc. too on the YouTube if you prefer a more visual thing. But if you like to be busy and put it in your ears, then yeah, on all good podcast providers, Argyle Life, Green and White podcast, you'll find us. Thank you.
Top man, Ben. Thank you so much for coming on today. I'm looking forward to returning the favour shortly. So just before we go, giving a quick shout out to our sponsors, which are Black Star Amplification and Carry On. To help me sound great, we've also got sponsorship of the podcast by the Record Shop in Amersham. If you're ever in Amersham and you're at a loose end, head into the Record Shop. They'll be absolutely over the moon to speak to you. Mention the OK Football Show, and they will speak to you at length, especially if you go on the weekend and see my dad. So that's the end of the show today. Thank you again for Ben, and for those Hatters that are travelling down to Home Park on Friday, I look forward to seeing you there. Come on, you Hatters. Thanks again.